Well, I don't think I ever was officially the artistic director. I think I was, I'm so old that, I go back a long way. Uh, but I sort of became the director as a result of our relationship. After the first show, everything seemed to, we really got along really well, and the play went off very well, and so the workshop just kept asking me. So it was by default that I sort of became the artistic director, and we didn't even really talk about that. We all sat down and said, well, what are we going to do next? And often I was the one who was coming up with the plays, and I had just come back from studying in the States, and so I had been introduced to a lot of black playwrights down there, and I loved Lorraine Hansberry, for instance, and the Negro Ensemble Company in New York City was a big influence. So I started reading a lot of their plays, and everybody in the workshop seemed to like them, and there was something about them that I found was relevant, and often, to tell you the truth, the other part of that was we wanted to find a good play, but I knew the actors that I had, so it was always a constant, looking for a play, but I knew I had 5, 6, 7 actors. I knew, so you had to fit the play with you had to try to combine a good theme with the reality of, I only have so many actors and money. And it was always that way, it was always that way. There was never, first and foremost, I tried to find a good play, but I wanted to find a good play that we could do, And I guess the artistic directorship, I was sort of by default the artistic director, but I don't know how many plays I've done, but I think I've done like 15 or 16 productions with the workshop. So it was just one year after another, and I don't even know when the last one, I think it was in the late 80s was the last play that I did. Well, I think the challenges were the resources. We had so few resources. But in a way, those challenges, trying to overcome those challenges led to successes, I think, because you had to learn to improvise. For instance, we worked for the most part, we rehearsed in what was then the Black Study Center. I don't know if it is still anymore. It was 1968 de Maisonneuve. I'll always remember that. And it was just a small room. It was a living room, basically, of one of these older, I don't know what you'd call them. I guess in New York they call them brownstones or whatever. But it was very tiny. So we had to rehearse there, and then we had to take it, let's say, to the stage at Centaur. So I was always making them aware that you had to, if you're here you're walking 5 feet, there you're going to walk 20 feet. But we managed to work it out. We just did it proportionately. We had very little money. It was hard to find the resource people in terms of technicians. There just weren't that many around. But the great thing about it was there was a solid core of people who I felt were doing it for the reason that they believed in whatever play it was that we chose. It was great to have a theater, that was that, kind of big and could accommodate a few people. We weren't terribly well equipped technically, so I think that it was a little difficult to get things up. But for me, it was great because I think it allowed the workshop to be exposed to a larger audience, to tell you the truth. And I think that was part of my reason for choosing some of the plays when I think of it. I wanted people, outside the black community to see these people, and their stories. Raisin was something that it was weird because I said to myself, before I even got into theater, I saw Raisin in the Sun one night on television, and I said to myself, and I wasn't in theater, I was studying math at the time. I said, if I ever was involved in the theater or film, that's what I'd want to do. And so when I got involved with the workshop, I had the opportunity to do the play. And we did it twice, actually. We remounted it, and that was wonderful. So, for instance, Jackie Webb was playing the grandmother in A Raisin in the Sun, and I think it was a matinee. And there was a group from Little Burgundy, and occupying the first 2 or 3 rows, people in their 70s and 80s, And it came to the end of the play, and there was one point where Jackie, as the grandmother, was leaving her apartment for the last time that her husband had basically died for. And there's a very emotional moment where she looks one more time at the apartment that he struggled to get for the family, and she would put her hand to her mouth to stop herself from becoming emotional. And there was a lady who looked like an Ethiopian queen, sitting, I think, in the second row, and very proudly, and she had a beautiful profile, and I was in the back just watching, and it was dead quiet because it was very emotional. And all of a sudden she said to Jackie, "It's okay, honey, you're going to be all right." And it was like, oh my God. Everybody in the audience just, breathed. It was as if she was speaking for everyone, and everyone kind of relaxed. But moments like that made me feel pretty good, because I thought we had served the play well, and there were many others like that. So I don't know, I think every time we got together, it was a success just as people working together, never mind whatever the product was. But what we put on stage, I think, had integrity, and we did the best we could.